Something I want to pull out for you, one, just to make transparent what we're doing, like literally as we're going through this OCS process, I want you to start to see some of the trends that you've created amongst your cohort and things that you've done to contribute to make those trends happen. Like when we think about the folks that we're saying, yep, they're starting to drive towards a goal that's really transformative for kids, what you're seeing your core members do is like they're reflecting about their process, they're creating rubrics, and they're starting to do things that will get their students there, whether it's teaching with rigorous content, or investing in their kids, or starting to get their kids to master more material. But then there are things that you're doing to get them in the place where they're actually able to attempt, where they're actually able to be on this vision-driven path. Like, you're forcing them to think back about their vision. Like I saw that last night in Joe's conversation. You're helping them to make sense of their vision when they don't understand pieces of it, whether it's Joe's in a new content area and I need to help them to understand, like, how do I use 6+1 writing, or Robert's teaching, I have no idea what Robert's teaching, but like high school ELA, and like you know, I need to help him to think about how to incorporate whatever elements of his vision that are important. Like there are things that you're doing to set them up for the successes that they're having, and I want us to come back to that because that's something that we'll probably draw from in the solution phase. Like how do we get these other folks who are not there yet? Let's jump there for a second. So like for the folks that are not, that we're saying we disagree, they are not in the place where they're driving towards a goal for driving towards.
And again, my definition might be very different than Maurice's or anyone or
well, let's see what your definition is first.
So
let's define what does this mean.
So to me, when I see people driving towards their vision, they know what the goals are within their vision, and they're starting to put things in place for kids to understand the traits and for them to have the traits as part of traits / I'm sorry, it's my mother. Jewish mother syndrome. On video, great.
Why is she not?
Don't send this to her. But
we gotta let
Mama DeVore is gonna get this. No, I'm just kidding. But what do I? So it's like to me, strongly agree is like students and teacher are strongly on this path where the kids know the traits, the kids know where they are with those traits. The language is all about the parts of the vision, and like it's like a package deal. You know what I mean? People who are like agree is like in their reflections, their conversations, and when we communicate, I could talk about their vision very openly and pull evidence from their classrooms and the way they're what their actions are. And to me, that's like the beginning, even if it's like a small beginning. Like I tried doing it with Kia on the phone, and it got a little. She like, because she's had so many placement changes and this and that, but it's still the same type of kids. It's still the ESOL at her school. She's like, I just haven't even gone back to that. That like now, I think she's realizing that needs to be part of conversations every time. So.
I think I agree with you. Except I want to expand both of those definitions just a bit because I think it's everything that you said. In addition to, they also know how progress known fits into like
and the rigor. They know
that how rigor fits into it. And
it's like progress known, and like they have plans that are like set up in a way where they're teaching something, they're assessing to see where they are in relation to.
And I think the thing that we often leave out when we're talking about vision driven is either people are only talking about the vision itself, but they're not talking about how like core members are using it to drive at something, or like how they're actually doing things to get towards the vision, or people are only talking about like, well, this core member is doing lots of stuff, but they're not necessarily thinking back to why they're doing what they're doing and how it's
like someone like Shanae, who to me it's like borderline because she does these college roadmaps. I'm not seeing like her kids like you were in there. There's not this like enduring like that may be separate, but she's already DRA'd a second time to see the growth of her kids. She has just created the most rigorous assessment she's ever made, and so part of me is thinking like as soon she'll be an agree. But I want to pull back her vision, clarify those things, and like make sure they're aligned to what her vision is, and pull out the things that she's not doing to then help her connect it all. Because she is very, and I know it's a little goal driven, like she's DRA'd already, but like she's DRA'd so that she can see like what growth is happening, what's not, and then like what do my kids need to be able to do. So it's like bits and pieces. Like she's committed to this idea of knowing where kids are all the time, but it's only for the academic goal. It's not for like the other pieces in her vision.
I mean, I think I think what you're doing with the folks who have gotten to the place where we really do think, and I agree with you about these people, that they are vision driven, and we're starting to see elements of them become vision driven, is you've helped them to focus back on their vision. and you've helped them to see how their vision itself should be what's driving their actions and driving what's happening in their classroom. I just want to see how we can make more of that happen for some of these other people, because I think honestly that's the thing that has to happen for all core members in order to get them to be vision driven. Okay, so I just want to think through a couple of these other folks. So like Shanae's a good example of a person that like, and I was in her classroom, like she in her classroom, I don't know that I don't feel like she's urgent
is not there, but
meaningful destination.
Urgent is not.
But I feel like she has a destination that she wants to go to, and we still need to help her to see
it needs to be connected.
How what she's doing either with investing kids, or I think the rigor piece we've worked on with her, but there are other pieces of this puzzle.
I just felt really bad. She worked really hard on this math unit and plan. I mean, an assessment, and then found out that she's only now teaching the lowest level of math, and they're leveling kids for math. So she's like, still give all your kids if they're all teaching time.
Yeah.
Because she has the lowest ones, great. You have the lowest ones. That's awesome, because you could teach. You know that they're getting rigorous thinking. So, but it was interesting that she was even reflecting on like, no, but I want them to do this assessment. I want this to work. Like, so she's getting it's like baby steps, but. You know.
Let's think through. I think she might be an atypical person, because I also think, like, given that she's also a person who's progress known and a person who has had some success. Let's think through some of your 2010s, like for the folks who are in this bucket of disagree. Like, I don't think that they're right now vision driven or driving towards a goal that's transformative for kids. What are some of the things that are holding core members back? So like, I'm just gonna name some names, and if you find some trends, let's think about them. So like, Jennifer, Dana, Kay, Machine, Christina, Julia. Like, okay, so tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit more.
So for someone like Dana, who had a really strong vision, she's struggling because we have had conversations about bringing her vision back, and she wants to. She just doesn't know how, because it's the same thing like the rigor that Dal 3 was talking about. At the beginning, her corners started off really rigorous, and they saw kids weren't excelling in that rigor, maybe because of like the teacher action student, whatever, like it's possible, like it's doable, but they lack the knowledge of how. They stopped making so rigorous. It was like that, like Dana started this really big vision and has a really clear destination where she wants her kids to go, and like the traits were in mindsets and all the goals were really, and like they're on her wall, the first or second week I was in her, third week maybe I was in her classroom, so it's like, I want to go to middle school, that way I know if I could get to middle school next year I'm going to be able to go to college. Like there was some conversation, and then it kind of like stopped when she had 5th grade EIP inclusive, and it just, the management got too overwhelming for her to even think about anything else. Now that we're at a place that she's working with me and Erica a little bit, and she has she's bringing rigor in, we're diagnosing, she's tracked writing, she's tracked math, we haven't finished diagnosing for reading, mainly because she's also SFA and they change her schedule all the time, but she still hasn't brought back in like the vision through like everything she's doing. And so like I know it's on the back of her mind, and I know like she still wants it, but it's like it was so far away from her to reach.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think has been the difference in, because like for folks like Joe, or for folks like Mary Grace, or other folks that you've been able to at the appropriate time connect them back to their vision and get them to be like using their vision to drive all their action with their classrooms. What do you think has been the difference for them and for these folks? Like, yes, management has been a huge challenge for these folks, but like,
well, I mean, Joe has management issues.
Joe does have management issues.
But because he's starting over, he realized how much a vision was, like he wanted to start with his vision. And so,
you might have to answer that.
No, I told her I wasn't able to. But you know what I mean? Like because he wants them to be the best writers they can possibly be. And like he thought through his vision like as he was starting to teach. It was fresher in his mind and like very driving like his thoughts. I think a lot of it is when we do this when we're in the summer or September and we meet our kids and come across challenges, and because my principal's not looking for it and I'm still seeing kids achieve academically perhaps, and I'm seeing progress and I'm building connections with my kids, like it feels like it's the same thing.